Stoy. One, I've hauled this Amarillo lane so many times I could drive it in my sleep. US 287 at 3 in the morning feels like another planet. Just endless road, thick darkness, fence lines fading into nothing, the shape of a windmill staring from far away, and almost no sign of life anywhere. That night in March 2018 was supposed to be another slow, quiet run. Coffee in my thermos, cruise set just under 65, the road humming beneath the tires like it always did. Nothing unusual. The first strange thing was how empty it all felt. So empty I started counting reflectors just so my mind wouldn't drift. And then I saw her. She stood on the shoulder waving both arms, stepping toward the edge of my lane like she had no other choice left. Her hair was stuck to her face from the wind. Even through my own headlights, I could see her mouth moving. I let off the throttle and grabbed the CB mic. Any DPS on 287 near mile 104? Female pedestrian flagging traffic. Just static answered me, nothing else. As I rolled closer, she rushed toward the passenger side, slapping the door, yelling something I couldn't hear over the hiss of the brakes. She looked young, late 20s maybe. No coat, no bag, nothing that made sense out there at that hour. Her fists smacked the step rail again and again. I cracked the window just an inch. Please, he's coming back. He's going to get me again. Let me in, please. I didn't think. I hit the lock and pulled the handle. She climbed up fast, scrambling into the seat like she'd been running for miles. She was shaking uncontrollably, staring straight ahead instead of at me. I reached for the CB again, but a flicker in the mirror froze my hand. A pickup, no headlights, its grille catching only the faintest glint, moving toward us way too fast. She saw it too and started screaming, gripping the dash. Go, go! Don't let him block us. I slammed the truck into gear and rolled hard. The trailer groaned, air brakes bursting loose. The pickup kept coming, then swung out wide and cut in front of us, lights still off. Stay down, I yelled, gripping the wheel. I flashed my hazards and leaned on the horn. The pickup drifted across my lane like it wanted me to panic. I didn't. I let the rig build speed on the downhill. The engine roared. The trailer rattled. The pickup swerved again, but I didn't budge. At the last moment, it jerked toward the shoulder and dropped back behind us. We didn't talk for nearly a full minute, just stared into the mirrors, waiting. Then the pickup flicked its headlights on and disappeared behind a rise like it had simply decided to choose a different victim. I took the next lit exit at a hard angle, tires barking as we swung off. Pulled into a 24-hour station, nose out, high beams pointed straight ahead. I grabbed my phone, saw 2 bars, and called 911. US 287 near mile 10 something, I told the dispatcher. Female pedestrian flagged me down saying someone was chasing her. Pickup tried to cut me off. It's somewhere out there. She told me units were on the way. Stay inside your vehicle. If he approaches, do not engage. The woman was still trembling. She kept staring toward the frontage road, flinching at every pair of headlights that passed. I handed her my water bottle, and after a few sips, the words started to spill out. He picked me up outside Amarillo, said he'd take me to Oklahoma City, but when I asked to stop at a station, he locked the doors. She stopped, staring forward like the memory hurt too much to look at. I jumped when he slowed on the shoulder. Thought I lost him, but he turned around. I told her we were safe now, police coming soon, but she stayed hunched over the dash like she expected him to appear right in front of us. I kept the truck running, nose out, headlights burning the lot. 15 minutes later, red and blue lights finally rolled in. A county cruiser first, then another behind it. I climbed down slow with my hands visible and told them everything. They talked to her first. One deputy crouched by the passenger steps with a small notebook. She repeated the same story. Hitchhiked, locked in, ran when she could, chased. Another unit cruised up and down the road. The pickup was gone. Might have taken a ranch cut, one deputy said. Miles of dirt roads out here. Once they're dark, they disappear. They offered her a ride to a shelter in Amarillo. She agreed instantly, like warmth and walls were all she wanted. Before she left, she looked at me once, almost ashamed, and whispered, "Thank you for stopping." I just nodded, not sure what to say. When the lot was quiet again, I walked around my rig with a flashlight. Straps were tight tires fine, just a smear of dust on the grab handle where she had grabbed on so desperately. I didn't park in Amarillo that night. I drove another 2 hours and stopped at a crowded truck plaza. Curtains cracked, keys in hand, lights from other trucks close by. A habit I still haven't shaken. A week later, a trooper called me. "We filed it," he said. "No pickup matched, no arrests." That was all. He called it a quiet night, but I still hear her voice whenever I think of that stretch of highway. The way she whispered, "He's going to get me again." And now when I see anyone standing on the shoulder, man or woman, it doesn't matter. I call first, keep moving, and never ever stop in the dark. Story 2. They don't call Highway 50, the loneliest road in America, as a joke. Nevada's stretch feels like it cuts across the bare bones of the earth. Just 2 lanes running through emptiness, sagebrush stretching forever, mountains sitting flat against the horizon like painted walls. I was hauling it in July 2016, heading from Ely to Fallon. Routine overnight run. Light load, dry goods, nothing worth remembering. My ELD was tight, but I figured I'd grab a quick nap at the next turnout. The night had that strange desert stillness, the kind where the moon washes everything in pale light and turns the sage into black and white shadows. The mesas looked like cardboard shapes propped in the distance. Even the radio was silent. I remember thinking, good night for an easy run. And that's when I noticed the shape up ahead. From far off, it looked like a block lying across my lane. Dark, wrong, too straight to be natural. As I got closer, it sharpened into a sedan parked sideways across the road. No flashers, no hazards, hood not up. Just sitting there, door cracked just enough to look like someone had stepped out a second earlier. I eased off the throttle, tapped the Jake, then shut it off entirely. No reason to announce myself more than 40 tons already did. I drifted toward it slow, scanning both sides of the highway. Something shifted in the sage to my right. Low, quick, like someone ducking. Then another movement on the left side, nearly the same shape. That was when the bottom dropped out of my stomach. This wasn't a breakdown, it was a setup. Truckers have a list of unwritten rules, and one of them is simple. Don't let someone place you exactly where they want you. Not on an empty desert road with no cell signal, no houses, and no witnesses within 50 miles. You don't step out unless you know what you're stepping into. I had maybe 2 seconds to choose. The shoulders on both sides were too steep to take the truck onto. Stopping and backing up was a guaranteed way to jackknife the rig. Only one move left. Keep going through. I dropped a gear, centered up dead on the sedan, and held the air horn down in one long, tearing blast. The sound ripped through the desert. My bumper hit the side of the sedan square. The car jerked sideways with a scream of metal, tires skidding across gravel as it slid just enough to open a narrow path. Pebbles rattled under the trailer. Out of the sage, 2 figures burst out, one on each side, scrambling backward instead of forward. That told me everything I needed to know. They weren't broken down travelers. They were waiting, hoping I'd stop, hoping I'd step out. I didn't. I kept my hand steady, eyes forward, and let the truck carry its own weight. The trailer wiggle was sharp, but it held. The instant the rear cleared the sedan, my whole body exhaled at once. The road ahead opened back into wide, clean darkness. Behind me, the sedan sat crooked, half-turned, lights still dead, no movement. I didn't slow down. I kept it at 55, checking every turnout like it might be another trap with more figures crouched low, waiting for another good Samaritan in the dark. The nap I planned? Gone. I drove past regulation hours until the horizon finally went from black to deep blue. When the first gas station outside Fallon came into view, the buzzing fluorescent lights looked like salvation. Trucks lined up like a protective wall. I parked nose out, killed the engine, but my hand stayed on the wheel a few seconds longer, shaking. When I finally climbed out, I walked around the rig with my flashlight, found a scrape of paint low across the bumper, definitely not mine. Inside, I went straight to the counter and asked for a landline, called Highway Patrol and told them everything. Mile marker, sedan blocking the road, people hiding in the brush, contact made but kept rolling. The trooper didn't sound surprised, said I wasn't the first one to report stage blocks out there. Could be thieves, could be something worse. he said. Just another note for the file. After that call, I tried to rest, but every little sound in the lot, a door slamming, an engine turning over, felt like a footstep coming toward me. When I finally rolled out again, the desert looked normal, quiet, empty, innocent. But that's the part that crawls under your skin the longest, how fast it goes back to pretending nothing happened. Even now, when I think of that night, I don't picture the sedan much. I picture the shapes in the sage, the way they ducked down like coyotes hiding from headlights. That image still makes my skin crawl. These days, I don't nap on Highway 50. I stick to lit truck stops, even if it means pushing extra miles. If I ever see a car sideways on a lonely road again, I already know what I'm doing. Horn and geometry, nothing else. Because that night taught me something simple and ugly. Some people count on you being a good person. They expect you to stop. And out there in the dark, on roads where no one is looking, being decent is exactly the door they're trying to pry open. Story 03. I was in my second year of trucking, 25 at the time, still learning which instincts I could trust. Tulsa, August 2019. I had timed my fuel stop carefully, slipping into that quiet window between the dinner rush and the 2 a.m. bar crowd. Normally, that's when stations are calm. Swipe card, set nozzle, glove up, restroom, grab an energy drink, back out. Same order every time. Because the less you think, the quicker you notice when something isn't right. That night I parked by the pumps, close to the door to cut down my walk. A few rigs were across the lot, engines humming like background music. I swiped my card, clipped the nozzle, and leaned against the side of my truck, stretching my back. Then I heard it. A whisper so faint I thought it was just the hiss of the pump. "Don't leave me." I turned. A girl was standing at the edge of the pump island. Maybe 17. No coat, no bag. Just shorts and a t-shirt, shoes without socks. Hair tied back carelessly, like she had left in a rush. She wasn't stumbling, didn't slur, wasn't drunk. Her eyes were clear but wide, terrified. "You okay?" I asked. She looked past me toward a silver sedan parked near the store. 2 men leaned against it. They weren't looking at her. They were staring at me. The girl hunched her shoulders like she wanted to disappear, shrinking into herself. "Don't leave me," she whispered again. "Come inside with me," I said quickly. "We'll talk to the clerk." She hesitated. Her feet shifted like she wanted to move, but waited for permission. The men by the sedan didn't call her back, didn't yell or wave. They just stood there, watching, measuring. My stomach tightened. I stepped sideways, keeping my eyes on them, and freed the nozzle. Pump beeped. I left it running. Together I said again, "Come on." She followed me inside. The clerk glanced up from behind the counter. I whispered to him, "Call the police." His eyes flicked to the girl, then back to me. Without hesitation, he picked up the phone from under the counter. I kept my eyes on the door, on the lot, on the men outside. The girl stayed close behind, shoulders hunched, hands fidgeting. Every shadow felt like movement, every passing car a threat. I made sure the clerk stayed on the line until I could guide her to a safer spot inside. The lot around us seemed normal, in a terrible way. Empty, quiet, like nothing had ever been wrong. But I didn't take my eyes off the silver sedan. And I never forgot the way she whispered, the way she looked at me, clinging like the world itself might swallow her whole if I turned away. That moment stayed with me long after I rolled out again, out onto the highway. Quiet nights, truck stops, shadows, and strangers. All of it felt sharper, colder. And I've never walked across a lot the same way since. "What's the emergency?" he asked. "Possible abduction," I said. 2 men outside, silver sedan. He repeated it into the receiver, then added, "Need a unit now." I turned to make sure the girl was still with me, but she wasn't. "Miss?" I called, checking the aisles. No bathroom door swinging, no freezer open. She was just gone. The clerk swore under his breath, still on the phone with dispatch. She came in with a trucker. Now she was gone. 2 men outside by a sedan, no plate visible. She had vanished as suddenly as she appeared. The men hadn't moved toward the store. They leaned against the sedan, still watching, calm, like predators waiting for the next moment. "Not the girl, me," I said under my breath. "Don't go out there," the clerk said quickly. "Wait for the cops. They're close." We stood side by side, using the store windows as mirrors, careful not to move too close. Seconds crawled by like minutes. Then red and blue lights swept across the lot. The sedan rolled away like nothing had happened. The officers listened to my account, then replayed the security footage. The girl's figure appeared, small and blurry. The men were just shadows beside the car. No plate, nothing to track. No missing person report matched her description. "You did the right thing," the older officer told me. "Bring people inside, keep them in camera view, involve staff. Don't isolate anyone." I nodded, but my mind was stuck on her whisper. "Don't leave me." I moved my rig closer to other drivers. I didn't leave right away. I sat with the engine idling, replaying every detail. Should I have grabbed her arm? Pulled her further inside? Or was that exactly what those men wanted? Me to step out alone? I checked news sites afterward, hoping to see a missing girl reported. Nothing. Maybe she was bait. Maybe she really needed help. Maybe she was both. I'll never know. Since that night, I always radio another trucker when I stop after midnight. I ask clerks to watch me go in and out. Simple precautions, but they matter. Because the scariest part isn't always what happens. Sometimes it's what almost happens, or what you never get answers for. That night in Tulsa taught me that. I've been on the road most of my life. I started trucking in my 20s, full of restless energy, thinking cross-country drives sounded like adventure instead of work. By the time of this story, I was 44, a widower, and trucking wasn't adventure anymore. It was survival. Survival meant getting loads, keeping wheels moving, and living with the silence of the cab. This happened in May 2014, on a route I'd taken more times than I could count, moving freight across Arizona. I'd just finished a long eastbound haul and was dead tired, the kind of tired where strong coffee feels like water. Near Flagstaff, I pulled into a rest area I knew well. Nothing special. 2 bathrooms smelling of bleach and old urine, vending machines with stale chips and sodas, a half-lit parking lot with buzzing lamps that flickered when you needed them most. Still, it was a place to stop, set the brakes, and catch a few hours in the sleeper. That night it was nearly empty. Just me and an old SUV parked crooked at the far end. Exactly how I liked it. Empty meant quiet. Quiet meant maybe a chance at real sleep. I parked nose out, like always, so if something felt wrong, nothing blocked my exit but the turn of a key. I set my alarm for 3 hours, drew the curtains, and stretched on the bunk. I thought I'd be out cold in minutes, but sleep doesn't always come when you've been alone too long. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the distant whoosh of cars on the interstate. Every so often a semi roared past, and the ground vibrated just enough to remind me I wasn't alone. I thought about my wife. She'd been gone nearly 5 years. Nights like this, quiet, tired, my guard down. I felt her absence sharply. She used to call just before bed to ask if I'd eaten. I'd have given anything for that kind of check-in that night. At some point I drifted off. A couple hours later, I woke to tires on gravel. You learn to notice tiny sounds on the road. A car door 2 spots away can wake you faster than an alarm. This one was different. The engine was low, almost humming, sliding in without headlights. That pulled me fully awake. Through the curtain, I saw a van slide into the space next to me. Any trucker knows unwritten etiquette in rest areas. You don't crowd another driver if the lot is empty. That's what set off the first red flag. A dozen other spots open, and this van parked tight against my passenger side. Not a coincidence. I pulled the curtain back a bit and looked. The side door lined up with my steps, just below the cab. No movement, no noise, no plates I could see. My skin prickled. Maybe it was someone catching sleep like me. Still, I slid my boots on and rested my hand near the air horn lanyard. Around 2:40 a.m., a faint metallic tap sounded. Something brushed the steps, then whispers low, trying not to carry. I leaned forward. 2 shapes crouched near the grab handle, inches from my cab, waiting. Fear washed over me. Not panic, cold, deliberate fear. They weren't here by accident. They were hunting. Without thinking, I slammed the air horn. The blast shook the cab, rattled the mirrors, echoed across the lot like a shotgun. They flinched but moved toward the driver's side. One cupped his hands and yelled, "Get out of the truck." The other pounded the door. Intent was clear. I didn't wait. Ignition fired, clutch pressed, wheel swung hard. The truck lurched forward, trailer rattling, load groaning, but distance was everything. The van reversed fast, but I was already halfway to the ramp. Horn again, long and punishing. Every muscle wound tight. No shots, no metal slammed. By the merge, rig at 60, rest area lights fading in the mirror. I didn't stop. Called 911 on Bluetooth, voice shaking. Dispatcher asked location, told me to keep moving to a well-lit truck stop. Hands locked on the wheel, eyes flicking between mirrors and the dark highway. Every distant headlight made my stomach tighten. I couldn't shake those crouched figures at my steps. 70 miles later, 24-hour truck plaza. Lights bright, cameras on every pump. Engine killed, sat shaking, jaw tight. Police arrived 40 minutes later. Said I did right leaving fast and loud. Didn't make me feel better. Just made me wonder how many others hadn't been so lucky. From that night on, I changed the way I ran. No isolated rest areas, only plazas with cameras, attendants, other rigs close by. Sometimes I nap with the engine idling, ready to move instantly. I never saw their eyes clearly, but I'll never forget their look, like I was already theirs if I opened that door. Cab feels like a fortress, but it's not. One wrong decision, one moment of trust, and it becomes a trap. I learned the hard way outside Flagstaff, and I'll never sleep easy on the road again. I've driven most of my adult life. 30 years in, and rest areas past midnight all feel the same. Not peaceful, not lively, just hollow. Lucky, and you hear only bugs, bulbs, wind. Unlucky, and something else. This was I-64 outside Louisville, June 2015. I was tired, regretting the gas station burrito in my gut. Lost the fight with eyelids 5 exits back. Pulled into the stop. Plan. 45 minutes, alarm set, then roll. Spot close to vending machines, half a family minivan, a crooked sedan. Restrooms lit, info center dark. I did my ritual scan. Mirrors, blind spots, footpaths. No movement, just bugs orbiting poles. Half closed the curtain, leaving a gap to watch the entrance. Stretched on the bunk, highway whoosh, filtering through. Tires hissed on dotted seams. Out in under a minute. Alarm ripped me back after 40. Mouth cotton dry. Reaching for ignition when something clicked. Faint. Human. A muffled strain. Sat still. Another noise, a squeak like a dome light switch, couldn't see it. Then the muffled sound again, shorter, like a word stuffed into cloth. Through the curtain gap, saw the sedan, 2 spots down. Interior light blinked once, went dark. Door opened, then shut quick. Nothing else. First instinct, hit the horn. Second, dial 911. Third, step down and knock on the window. Hesitated. Could be argument, could be nothing. Sound came again. Higher, panicked, unmistakably human. Hand froze over horn. Needed certainty. Planned. Start engine, swing rig to block sedan, hammer horn. No heroics, just light and steel. Before moving, sedan tail lights flared red, then cut. Car straightened, glided forward without headlights, hugging shadows. Last second, beam snapped on, gone. Up the ramp, swallowed by interstate. Pulled out, followed at distance, not to catch, just move. 2 exits, car's only anonymous taillights. Stopped at a 24-hour plaza, lights harsh, called 911, told dispatcher exactly what I saw. Car, interior light, muffled screams, asked for make, model, plate. Little to give. Unit sent, checked rest stop, bathrooms, shoulders for 10 miles. Nothing. No car matched, no bodies, no arrests. Case number given. Weeks later, I kept asking myself, bait or victim? Escape a trap or leave someone behind? No news, no missing person, no plate. Just crooked car, flicker of light, muffled sound, my own hesitation. That's what stuck. Not what I did, but what I didn't. Haunted? This doesn't chase you. It sits like a mile marker I pass in my mind. Thin line between doing nothing and something, gone in a moment. Quiet of rest areas after midnight isn't peace. It's a question. That night I answered too late. I've been trying to answer earlier ever since. Story 4. I've always liked the isolation that comes with trucking. Some people can't handle the endless stretches of road and the empty landscape. But for me, it's peaceful. It's just you, your rig, and the road. You don't have to deal with anyone, and you can get lost in your thoughts, or at least that's how it usually is. I had been driving somewhere in the middle of Nevada on a deserted highway with no real signs of life in any direction. It was one of those stretches where you could go hours without seeing another vehicle, let alone a town. It was close to midnight when I noticed something was wrong with my rig. The engine made a faint sputtering noise, barely noticeable at first, but enough to catch my attention. I looked down at the dashboard. Nothing seemed off, no warning lights, no signs of trouble. But the noise persisted, a quiet, steady cough from the engine like it was struggling. I had another 2 hours before the next truck stop, but I figured I'd make it there before anything serious happened. At least that's what I thought. About 20 minutes later, the sputtering turned into a full-on stutter, and before I knew it, the engine just died. The truck coasted to a slow stop on the side of the road, the hum of the engine fading into nothing, leaving me in the oppressive silence of the night. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. I'd always taken care of my truck, kept up with every check and repair, and it had never let me down. I turned the key, hoping it was just a fluke, but the engine wouldn't turn over, only the awful click of a dead battery. I flicked on the hazard lights and stepped out of the cab. The night air hit me like a wall of heat, though it was well past sundown. Desert nights are supposed to be cool, but there was something strange about the air. I popped the hood and grabbed my flashlight from the toolbox, shining it over the engine. I'm no mechanic, but I know enough to see the basics. Everything looked fine. No leaks, no signs of damage. But something wasn't right. No matter how many times I tried, the truck wouldn't start. I grabbed the CB. Breaker 19. Anyone out there? I'm stuck on the side of the highway. Rig's dead. Anyone nearby? My voice echoed through the empty cab, but the response was only static. I tried again, louder this time, my unease growing. Come on, someone's got to be out there. I could use some help. Nothing. No crackle of a distant voice, no sound of another driver. Just static. I stood there for a moment, the quiet pressing down on me. My phone had no signal, and the nearest town was too far to walk to. I was trapped in the middle of nowhere with no way to fix the truck. A shiver crawled up my spine, that instinctive chill when you know something's wrong, but you can't quite name it. I was about to climb back into the cab when I saw headlights in the distance, faint at first, then growing closer. Relief washed over me. Maybe another trucker, someone who could help, or at least give me a ride to the next stop. As the vehicle got closer, I saw it was an old, beat-up pickup. It rolled to a stop a few yards ahead, and a man stepped out. He was tall and lanky, clothes worn and dusty, like he'd been on the road for days. There was something about him that immediately put me on edge. Need some help? He asked, his voice low and gravelly. For a second, I wasn't sure how to respond. Something about him felt off, but I was stuck in the middle of nowhere, and I couldn't be picky. Yeah, my truck broke down, I said, forcing a smile. I'm not sure what happened. It just died. He nodded slowly, his eyes flicking toward my rig. Mind if I take a look? I hesitated, but what could I say? I was stuck, and he was the only person around. Sure, go ahead. He moved toward the truck with a strange, deliberate slowness. My unease deepened. He didn't ask any questions about the truck, didn't seem interested in the engine. He just stood there peering under the hood, back turned to me. Something about the whole thing felt wrong, like I was missing something obvious. The hair on my arm stood up, and I stepped back, keeping my distance. He stayed under the hood longer than necessary, barely moving, head tilted as if listening for something. I shifted nervously. See anything wrong? I asked, breaking the silence. He didn't respond, just stayed frozen. Finally, he turned to face me. Looks like you're in a bit of trouble, he said, voice low, almost amused. But I can help. There's a place not far from here, just off the highway. I've got tools. We can tow your rig and get it fixed. My gut screamed at me to refuse. There was something in his voice, something in the way he looked at me that felt wrong, like he wasn't offering help at all, but something darker. I appreciate it, but I'll wait for a tow. Someone should be by soon, I said. His eyes narrowed. We just stood there, staring at each other in the dim light from my headlights. You sure? He asked, taking a step closer. The beat of my heart thudded in my throat. Something was very wrong, and I knew it. I forced a smile. I'm sure. He studied me, eyes cold and calculating, like weighing his options. Then, without a word, he turned and walked back to his truck. But his slow, deliberate movements made it clear this wasn't over. I climbed back into my rig and locked the doors. His truck hadn't moved. He just sat there, engine idling. I told myself he'd leave soon, but unease gnawed at me. Minutes passed, then an hour. His truck remained. My palms slick with sweat, nerves fraying. Suddenly his truck lurched forward, pulling alongside mine. My stomach twisted with dread. I saw his silhouette through the window, face dimly lit by dashboard lights. He watched me, expression unreadable, but something in his eyes chilled me. He rolled down the window, leaning out. You sure you don't want that help, buddy? I didn't answer. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone, hoping for signal, but the screen was blank. He stepped out, engine still running, walking toward my door. I fumbled for the keys, truck still dead. Panic surged as he drew closer, that same slow, deliberate walk from before. I grabbed the tire iron, hands trembling, ready to defend myself if needed. He reached my door, knocking hard. Open up, he said, low and menacing. I froze, clutching the iron, heart roaring in my ears. He knocked harder. Don't make this difficult. My mind raced, no options left. Then engine sounds in the distance. Headlights cut through the darkness behind me. Hope surged. Another trucker approaching fast. He froze, hand on my door, eyes narrowing. For a tense moment, I thought he'd break in anyway, but then he turned, walked back, climbed in, slammed the door, and sped off. The other trucker pulled up behind me. Too shaken to move at first, I eventually stepped out and waved him down. He was a fellow long-haul driver, just passing through. When I told him everything, he offered to stay until the tow arrived. I don't know how long it took, but the man never came back. I've been trucking for years through all kinds of weather on endless roads into towns that barely exist. That night was the closest I've ever been to real danger. The man on that highway seemed like he was offering help, but I know now his intentions were anything but good. To this day, whenever I drive through deserted stretches, I keep my eyes on the road and never ever stop for strangers. Sometimes the people who offer help are the ones you should fear the most,